I'm going to call the January 4th, 2024 school committee meeting to order. And I'll do a quick walkthrough of the agenda, then we'll jump in. So we will start with some very exciting, I don't know. We're very excited to have the state championship field hockey team here this evening. We get to celebrate them and their accomplishment. We're looking forward to that. We have consent agenda. We have reports. Looks like Emily wasn't able to make it, but we'll have our Director of Finance, Assistant Superintendent of Student Services, Superintendent, and then liaison reports. We'll then jump into the meat of the meeting, which includes our RISE tuition adjustment, review, discussion, and vote. We'll also review the staff additions, Dr. Milczewski will, that were done during the FY23 and FY24 budget cycles. And then we will start our process of the FY24 budget review, which includes the Administrative Cost Center and the Student Services Cost Center this evening. Once we're done with that, we will adjourn to executive session, not to return, and we'll go from there. So with that said, Dr. Milczewski, you want to start off by introducing our field hockey team and coaches and whatnot?
Perfect. All right, so this is the best part of the evening. So we're thrilled tonight to be joined by the 2023 field hockey state champions. So a couple things, I'll share, you can come up in a second. I'll share a couple things about the team too. First, so just I know a lot of the communities followed along through the season, and I see Chris here in the front row. Thank you, Chris, for reading recap, also celebrating a lot of successes and accomplishments along the way. But I know that the community has been very eager to follow all the way from early in the season when it looked like it was going to be a special season, all the way to the #1 seed, and then all the way through the state tournament. This represents the highest level of athletic accomplishment, and I think that's as a community, as a Reading community, we take athletics really seriously, and to have this state championship, I think, means a lot there's a major point of pride for the entire community. A couple things about the team 22-1, #1 seed in the D2 state tournament, and there was the first ever state championship, and I think many either watched live or joined the thrilling 2-1 OT victory over Norwood. I just think that win was so special too, to be down 1-0 so late and to fight and claw back and then put one in OT was an awesome game, and what a way to win a state title. I'd like to give a special thank you to your coaching staff, so Jess Palmer, Amy Marisolo, Megan Holton, and Taylor Reynolds, I think, who did an incredible job. All the feedback that we've received from student athletes and from families is just glowing about the work that the coaches did in terms of just preparing you as athletes, but also more importantly, preparing you as student athletes and leaders in the community too. So thank you to the coaches for all of your work and leadership. Also like to give a thank you to all of the seniors, and a special thank you to the three captains, Natalie Wall, Autumn Matthews, and Miles Lakin. I think everyone who speaks about this team speaks highly about the leadership of this team, and I think that starts with the captains and the seniors for the model that they set for the rest of the program. When I ask the high school administration about this team, the principals, athletic director, they share words like this: a positive, respectful, hardworking, role models, strong in the classroom, great character, all the things that you'd want to hear about our student athletes. So I think you set a really high bar for athletics across our district, and just a tremendous congratulations. We want to do this. We know that the most exciting part about winning a state title may not being able to come hang out with us, but we did want to be able to share, we think it's important for us to celebrate this given the level of accomplishment, and also try to give you as much publicity because of given just your accomplishment too. So tonight we'd like to hear a little bit from your coaches on just the season, and then also hear a little bit from the captains, and if anyone else feels moved to speak, we'd love to welcome. We have an open mic too, and then we'll close with a picture. So I think we'll start with Coach Reynolds to come on up.
While they're on their way up, I have to do a formality here because we have one member that's remote, so I got to do a roll call vote. So roll call attendance: Sean?
Here.
Aaron?
Here.
Carla?
Here.
Tom? Here. Sarah?
Here.
All right, so now we're ready to go.
Is this
Sorry
okay?
about that.
Perfect.
That's great. Perfect.
All right. Hold on. I have my little notes here. So thank you so much for having us here. This is really special. We appreciate being invited to this meeting. This has been just a whirlwind of a season for us. And I just have a couple thank yous before I say a little bit more about our season. I want to thank Tom Zaya, who's not here today, and Victoria and Ted Bryson, our trainer and equipment manager. They're very essential in our success. My coaching staff, Megan, Amy, and Jessica, our successful youth program. We are really lucky to have a really successful youth program through many of these athletes were able to grow and become the athletes they are today. Our parents are so supportive. They came to all of our games. They didn't miss one, rain or shine, and we're just really lucky to have such supportive parents in the community and hundreds of fans. You know, at our game, our final game, we packed the house, and students from the school came, and it just was really nice to see the community rally together for the team and their hard work. So I'm really grateful for the embrace that the larger Reading community, as well as being part of a town that really values athletics as an essential ingredient to the scholar experience. I firmly believe that our best scholars are the ones who also are multi-talented in other areas, especially on the field. It just was so amazing to feel that support from in the classroom and out. I want to talk a little bit about the team. So we had 17 athletes, 10 of which are seniors, and many of those seniors have played for 3 or 4 years on our varsity team. Recently, 10 juniors and seniors were just named academic all-stars in the Massachusetts Field Hockey MSFHCA, and that is such an accomplishment to succeed in the classroom and also on the field. Let's see, all of these athletes on our team, they work hard on the field and off in the classroom. We also were lucky this year to be Middlesex League champions for the second year running. It's the first time, last year was the first time since 2007 that we were able to accomplish that. We were 22 wins, 0 ties, and 1 loss. And this D2 state championship team is the first to ever accomplish this pinnacle achievement in our program history. Sparking what we hope is a long-lasting tradition of passion and excellence for our younger Reading field hockey athletes. Again, we appreciate being recognized. They worked hard, they put in the time and the work together as a team, and they're not only great athletes, but fantastic people, and like you said, role models for the community. And while the field hockey part is fun, I am most proud of just the quality of character that these teammates have proven, and how they work together, and how they show the meaning of team. And it's just an absolute honor to be their coach and be just a small part of their lives. So thank you to our team. What a special season. We've talked about it from the beginning, and what a great way to wrap it all up here with you, and many more celebrations ahead. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. And I'd like to invite them to come on up too. So come on up.
I'm Autumn, and I'm one of the 3 varsity captains from this year, and I just wanted to say thank you to the whole Reading community. You guys really rallied a lot this year, and especially for the state championship game, we were able to raise a lot of money so that way students could come, and it was free of charge. So that was a huge accomplishment, and it showed how the town rallied around us and how everyone had our full support, which was really, really good to see, and nice to know that the community had our backs, especially because of being a sport that had never won the state championship before. So that was a huge accomplishment, and I wanted to say thank you to everyone, parents, the community, even the youth. They all did such a nice job of really showing us that they were rallying behind us, and it was very, very nice to see. So,
I think you said it.
So just with like the send-offs, especially in the bus, and having that support of the community, just like rallying around us. I know for me personally in games, having like a large crowd and just like hearing everyone be supportive, even like my teammates on the field, everyone is so supportive of each other. And so having that support kind of from behind of the Reading community just means a lot to all of us. Thank you guys. Yep.
Anyone else want to say anything?
Anybody else?
No, it's okay. Would you like to come on up?
Okay. Hi, I'm Ava Goodwin. I'm also one of the seniors on the team. To add on to the aspect of community, I was saying that one of my favorite moments about the championship day was on that bus ride home when everyone was just passing us, we were just waving to everyone. I feel like that was just one of the highs for us because seeing everyone just smiling, and even if they didn't know what was going on, just see, they were just like, hey, it was really nice. But there was also just people at restaurants that came outside, and it was just such a moment where you just felt like the town came together for something so, I don't know, I mean, so great in our lives, but it's probably minute to other people, but it was just amazing. So again, thank you all.
Congrats on the goal, Ava.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'd love to maybe have everybody say their name real quick, come on up and just say hi, introduce yourself, say your year.
You don't have to. You can.
You can, I'm Gabby Sabatino, I'm a senior.
And I'm Natalie Wall, senior as well.
I'm Liana Sullivan, I'm a senior. I'm Lily Stanton, I'm also a senior.
Hi, I'm Maeve O'Brien, I'm also a senior.
I'm Kendall Graves, I'm a sophomore. I'm Avery Conway, I'm a junior.
I'm Leah Giacovoni, I'm a sophomore.
I'm Olivia Bass, I'm a junior. And I'm Carolyn Gallegos, and I'm a senior.
Awesome.
So thank you again, and like I said before, it's just so special to be part of a town that really values athletics. It's just clear, based on how these athletes grew up, that it was such an important part of their lives, and we just appreciate it. It's just a special season we're going to remember for a while. So thank you.
Thank you guys.
I'd like to just close with a photo of everyone, if that's okay, too.
Yeah,
The
before
newspaper.
we release you, we need a photo.
That sounds great. All right, so I'll have to move back in front
Yeah,
of the
we'll
tables.
move back in front so there's a little bit more space.
You want me to take one for Olivia?
Sure.
I was hoping you was gonna stop him. You don't need to do that. I was like, I don't really have everything. Sorry.
Meg, do you have your phone? Do you have your phone with you? No, I'm going to take it for someone have their phone. I'd love to us have a.
Move the team forward a little bit so we get behind you. So all the focus is on you, no. Before we let you go, we just want to thank you as well. I mean, you all have done a great job representing this town, representing yourself, representing the schools. It's amazing. It's really amazing to see it, and I know some of you because I've coached some of you when you were younger, but it's still amazing to see it as time goes by. So thank you so much for what you've done. And hey, this is just one season. What's next?
Thank you very much.
Tell me you want to hit public comment as a formality.
Yep. Thanks for the reminder, Sean. Okay, so back to our agenda, and I inadvertently skipped public comment. We do have two members of the public here in case there is public comment. And I'm looking and I'm seeing shakes, so, all right, we're good. So we'll move on to the consent agenda, and do we have a motion?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
And a second? Seconded by Sean. Any discussion? Seeing none. Okay, so we'll do a roll call vote. Sean?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Carla?
Yes.
Sarah? Yes. And Tom, yes, so it passes 5-0. And we can move on to reports, and we'll start with Dr. Pinto.
Good evening, everybody. So just wanted to start with a note of gratitude and appreciation for the work of some RMHS students who contributed photos to the budget book that you'll see this evening. So these are students that are enrolled in Kathleen Daly's Advanced Placement Photography class, and it's Ryan Fox and Bridget Patterson and Liv Lamb have all been featured. And we do have a community member that we've got a photograph from, Alicia Williams. So thank you to all of them.
Great, thank you. Dr. Stice?
So we've talked a lot at school committee about unified basketball, and I just wanted to make sure everybody knows that we are very excited to offer a winter season of unified strength and conditioning training. It's going to be at Tuesdays and Thursdays at the YMCA, and athletes and partners are more than welcome to sign up. Something just went out to all of the high school students about that. So if anyone's interested, definitely check that out because it's exciting. And then right before our break, we received notice from the governor that Reading Public Schools was awarded a Safe and Supportive Schools competitive grant for $10,000. And so we are very excited about that and going to be able to use it to continue some of our efforts in making sure that our schools are safe and welcoming places for all of our students and staff.
Great, thank you. Any questions? Okay, Dr. Malachewski?
Just one update. We're thrilled to share that we received a $60,000 grant from the state. It's called the School Behavioral Health Workforce and Service Expansion Grant. This is submitted by our Director of Nursing, Mary Juliana. The way that this funds will be used in FY24 is to hire a district multilingual learner, family liaison. We're actually excited to share too that just this past week, Tayana Pereira started in that role. This aligns to our strategic plan of having better family and community engagement, particularly for our multilingual learner families. Tayana's already taken the lead in connecting with families. She's a Reading parent herself, so already has built up a strong network, had been doing a lot of this work behind the scenes, and now is officially doing it in that capacity, again, as the district multilingual learner family liaison. So a welcome to Tayana in the role and already making an impact, and we think that that's a great resource for our families and something that's long overdue and especially impactful given our continued increase of multilingual learners in our district.
Great, thank you. Any questions? All right, liaison reports, Sean?
No report.
Erin?
No report.
Carla?
Just a couple of quick things for the Killam Building Committee is meeting on Monday at 7. We had a meeting today. There was a meeting with the designer and with staff members at Killam, and the designers are interested to get to know the staff and get to know the community. So they did they went through a process where they asked what the priorities were for the staff. Next Thursday, we have our very first community meeting. So we're inviting everyone in the town. It's Thursday, January 11th, right before our school committee meeting. It's from 5:15 to 6:45. It's in the Killam cafeteria. We're inviting everybody in the community, parents, stakeholders, regardless if you have kids or don't have kids in the community. We'd like people to attend, meet the designers, and provide feedback to the designers. This information helps to make their design for our school that much better.
I have a question. Carla, I remember maybe a year and a half ago, there was a neighbor who lived, I think, across the street from Killam who came in talking about traffic flows and things like that. Now that we're entering this phase, are we proactively reaching out to abutters at this point?
That is a very good point. We have, this has all happened so quickly. Right before the holidays is when the designer came in, and we are putting this information out there. So no, the answer is no. We haven't done that yet.
I know this is just the first of, probably many meetings,
But let's put it out there.
Yeah, for sure.
If you know of neighbors, please invite them to come. If anybody knows of that gentleman who we know will be interested, please invite them to come.
Okay, great.
And we will have a website coming soon.
That's really good feedback too. We can take the lead on connecting with town hall and making sure that we are able to, especially reach out to the families right in that area too. We can take that as a next step.
We can also look back at that meeting and see if we can find out the name of the gentleman who came and raised that concern.
Yeah.
It's all recorded, so we just have to look at it and find who that was.
At the tour, you talk about that?
No, it was here. It was here in this.
He lived in one of the 2 or 3 houses directly across from the entrance driveway, so
It
it's probably
hard
easier to
find,
just look at
right?
GIS or something rather than looking back to the meeting. I can help figure out who that was.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Sean.
The only thing I have, I don't think Dr. Milczewski or I mentioned it, the Children's Cabinet from December. We have we had the second meeting of the Children's Cabinet in December. It's been a very active group, talking through various different things. There were two topics that we chose to work through, one of which was addressing mean behavior and relational aggression, and improving social connectedness as well. Dr. Stice was there too. It's been interesting to see that group come together and coalesce. We've had people that have not been able to join every meeting, but you still see the ideas coalesce and whatnot. And the one I think I'm working on, and you guys can talk about the one you're working on real quick, is that connectedness one, and the idea of bringing it's sort of becoming like almost a launching pad website of sorts to introduce people to the community and different resources across the community. We've also talked about expanding some of the like Welcome to Reading concepts that we have at the library, and there's a few others like that, but targeting specific groups like our multi-language learner group, and Lynn Williams is in that group and mentioned that we've done something to start that already, but we're working to build that up even more. So the idea there being to just make sure that from a school perspective, we're involving families in the process and giving them as much help as necessary where they are. So I don't know if you want to add anything from that meeting that I missed, or your sections or anything else like that that you feel like is important.
I would say one of the best additions to this meeting were all the students that came, because they provided such a unique perspective that we didn't think about in terms of how we talk about things and market activities and make sure that everybody's included. And so we are doing a lot of work around the connectedness and some of the relational aggression. CPAC's actually sponsoring a talk in February from author Phyllis Flagel that talks about middle school in particular. And so it's really just great to have the community coming together to really all look at these issues really as a community issue, not just a school issue, because these things aren't just happening in school, they're happening everywhere. So it's really an honor to be part of that committee.
Great. Okay, so we will be moving on to the next portion of our agenda, which will start with our RISE tuition adjustment review, discussion, and vote. And Dr. Milczewski, I'll turn to you to start that conversation.
Great. So this conversation will be split up into two parts. First, both brief. First, we're going to speak a little bit about just some of the tuition adjustments for this upcoming school year. And also Jen then is going to speak briefly about just some of the adjustments in programming, particularly in the days and the hours of a couple of different programs. So first, as the committee may know, we are sending out, applications will be published tomorrow. So this is kind of coming out right before that. We're seeking school committee approval on the increase in tuition rates of a couple of our programs. So in the packet, you'll find all the programs listed with the FY24 tuition and also the proposed FY25 annual tuition. The only two programs where there is a proposed increase are ones where we feel like we're behind where we were in cost or unit price for some of our other programs. This was not a year where we tried to maybe level set with the market. This is a year we try to level set amongst our own programs. So if you look in the packet, you'll see that we're trying to get close to that $290 to $300 range unit price per program. So one of those programs, which you see the most significant increase, which is the 5-day AM transitional program, was the largest increase. But you can see if you kind of price that out, that was a program that we feel was significantly behind in tuition than our other programs too. So that's a little bit about the tuition, the proposed tuition increases. I wanted to have Dr. Stice quickly share a little bit about just some of the proposed shifts also in programming in terms of days and hours.
So I'd really like to start by thanking Carrie Wilcox, our director of RISE. She has spent this year really looking at all of the models, checking for efficiency and effectiveness, and she found some areas that we could make some improvements on. So typically, we have had a class that was 4 days a week, total of 10 hours, and this year it was piloted as a 12.5-hour class, and what we have found with that class is we have extraordinarily low enrollment, and even for the families that go to that class, they're actually mostly only coming 4 days a week. So it doesn't make sense to continue to have that option if it is not meeting the needs of the families in Reading. There's also another 5-day-a-week program. It's actually very innovative and going really well. In the morning, there's a large group of students, general ed students and students who have IEPs, and they work together. And then in the afternoon, there's the small group of students stays and gets some more direct instruction. The issue with that program is that it runs this year from 8 to 11:30. The entire rest of RISE dismisses at 12. So it doesn't make sense to have those students leave a half an hour early, and just in terms of transition for the program itself, to have two dismissals so close to each other. So we just want to make sure everybody leaves at noon, which makes the morning a little bit longer for those students, but it allows for better transitions and running of the program. So those were her recommendations, just in shifting those days.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So those students that stay for the afternoon, are they students on IEPs, or are they?
Correct.
So then it becomes a full sub-separate at that point in
Yes.
time? Okay.
So it's a nice way to reinforce the skills, but they also get some really great inclusion opportunities. It's a really good model that seems to be working this year.
Okay.
And so the students who are not on IEPs that participate in the morning, they're signing up for a 5 half-day program?
Yes.
Okay. It's been a couple years since I signed up for RISE. How is it marketed versus, how is the 5-day transitional program marketed versus the 5-day one that you said we're walking back from next year?
So
Or how
the
are they
problem with the 5-day one, they're just options on the menu of what you can sign up for, but the 5 half-day one was always 4 days a week.
Right.
And there just aren't enough students interested in 5 mornings to fill both classrooms. So we want to fill the one, that makes sense, and then for all the families that are looking for 4 days a week, we just want to have that as an option, so we're not using a staff member to sit with 1 or 2 students, that those students can go into the other class.
So parents would have signed up for 5 half-days,
Yes,
and their student may have been placed in this, in a cohort with this transitional program, or they may have been placed in a cohort that was just a traditional integrated classroom,
yes.
right? But not part of the transitional program?
Yes.
Okay, got it. So we're just saying we don't have enough to fill those 2 cohorts? We'll have.
Yes.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for checking.
Okay.
Yep.
Any further conversation? Sarah, anything from you?
No, nothing for me.
Okay, we have a motion.
So, motion to approve the proposed preschool tuition rates for 2024-25.
Second.
Seconded by Carla. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Sean?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Carla?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Tom? Yes, so it's approved 5-0. Email can go out first thing tomorrow morning.
They're ready.
Okay, so now we move on to the budget-related discussions, and I think we start off with our additions for 23 and 24 review. So Dr. Milczewski, back to you again.
Great. So we thought it was important to frame or kick off the conversations for the FY25 budget cycle with a little bit of a reflection back on FY23 and FY24. We think that the rationale for that is that this is generally, as you'll see in the budget, more or less a FY25 is a level service budget with some minor additions. Yet, we feel there are some pretty significant adds in FY23 and FY24 that it's important for us to continue to think about those roles, reflect on those roles, and make sure that we're maximizing the impact of those investments. So in your packet, you'll find you'll see kind of a presentation that has all of the new roles that were added over the past 2 years, a description of the role, some of the initial indicators of their progress, and then some of the focus areas for us within each of those roles for FY25. I'm not going to walk through all of these one at a time, just 'cause I think they're in the packet. We've talked a lot about them. But I did just want to share some general comments about just these at large. You'll see that they're bucketed into 4 major categories in terms of budget additions. The first category, or one of the categories, being multilingual learners. As we've shared several times, many times, we've seen a significant increase in the number of multilingual learners. Adding this staffing allows us to better meet the required instructional minutes of our students and to better support them, particularly our level 1 MLLs. Over the past couple of years, we've had significant investments within special education. Within special education, you see falling into 3 major buckets. 1, our investment in team chairs. 2, investment in items that relate to our special education program reviews, so secondary transition specialists, inclusion specialists, BCBAs. And then that last bucket being teachers at all levels of the district. All of those adds together help us to better invest in special education and ensure that we're meeting the needs of our students in district. Next bucket is around student services, and you'll see there's 2 major parts to our student service bucket. 1 being the addition of 2 nurses, one a 1-to-1-to-1, and one of them being a 1-to-1, and one of them being a district-wide nurse, and then the other being counselors. And you'll see that's probably our largest investment of 11 counselors over the past 2 years in our district. I have heard from staff and from parents around, can we put more counselors in our building? And I think this is one that we've seen post-COVID has just been a really good investment, is that just as we've seen an increase in social emotional needs in our students, I think that our social workers have become increasingly critical in the day-to-day experience for our students. So I think that those roles have had a especially large impact over the past couple of years. All as you'll see kind of different types of counselors as well. And then that last bucket being supporting teaching and learning through our assistant principals, math coaches, director of academic achievement, and then a little bit of a shift in a district data specialist, FTE. Those are roles that we think are important for sort of oversight, leadership, and support in building out strong instructional systems. The one I did want to talk just a little bit more tonight was about the assistant principal role. Committee members have asked sort of how is that going. I think I'm going to read just a quote, or kind of more of a narrative from one of our principals that I think sheds light on some of the things that are our focus areas for FY25, like where do we need to get better with these roles, and then also what sort of already is in place that's working too. So this is a note from a principal shared. I'm not sure I'll be able to articulate the benefits of the AP role fully yet, as I think we will see the significant impact next year after we've spent a year putting better systems into place to strengthen our roles. However, the most significant additions for me are the sustainability of strong leadership and advancement of district goals. To advance our academic and social-emotional initiatives, especially in response to COVID's impact on our students and families, we needed more support for our school community, families, students, and staff. Student crises take a tremendous amount of time to manage and communicate with all involved parties. Doing this well takes time and emotional energy and redirects the principal's agenda for the day, which would be ideally focused on instruction and curriculum. The minutes spent in our day speaking with parents, ensuring we complete appropriate paperwork to comply with state law, etc., are things that we talk little about with our stakeholders. Our daily schedule is often interrupted due to the nature of working with young people and their families, which isn't a bad thing, but cannot always be scheduled into the day ahead of time. Last year, making progress with our new reading and math programs felt like 1 step forward and 2 back when these urgent matters arose. A principal's role has a very high level of oversight and vision, but also requires being in the weeds with many important details. The assistant principal brings expertise that supports both missions, so the principal can stay on course more often to move our district goals of rigor and sense of belonging forward. Having a dedicated AP provides me with a partner who shares the same goals of creating a student-centered school, holds me accountable to do our best work, and helps shoulder the work that takes time that has been spilling over to home, which has prevented me from having a healthy home-school balance. Our teachers and families feel supported by our new AP, and we can be more responsive in a more efficient timeline. However, one of my main goals with this new role this year is to identify where we can better support the school community. We need to create clear systems and structures, flow charts, etc., so we can be responsive to the student staff needs and be proactive in our initiatives. I'm really excited to see what our school looks like 1 year from now. So I think that does a couple of things on that. I think it highlights some of maybe the reasons why we're initially encouraged about this role. But also sheds light on some of the work we have to do in FY 24 and 25 to make sure that we're maximizing the impact of these roles too. And I think that does connect to a lot of these other roles, which some of these roles are very early on into their adoption, some just being a couple of months, some a year and a couple of months. We're in various phases of being able to assess sort of are they working or not. But I think overall, we feel really encouraged with the investments that we've made over the past couple of years. We feel that these have significantly improved the quality of education that our students are receiving day in and day out. And I'd also just like to thank the school committee. I'd like to thank the town for just their constant support. It's not typical, I think, to be able to add this many positions that I think are critical for a district in such short time. And I appreciate sort of the advocacy and the urgency of our community in getting these positions in for our students too. So as we look at our budget for FY25 and we do not see the level of add that we've seen the past couple of years, I did just want to make sure that the community understands just where we've been the past couple of years, the impact that's having, and that we are staying focused on making sure we're maximizing those roles and taking stock of where we are as we move forward. So I'll pause there if there's any just questions, feedback, or conversation around any of the ads or this topic in general.
Looking to the committee. Sarah, anything from you?
No, nothing for me. Thanks for that, Tom.
I have a couple then real quick, and I stopped on one of them here. So we, as you mentioned, we've seen growth, quite a bit of growth in our MLL needs. How much headroom do we have for state compliance with the staff that we have right now? And when do we flip over to need another half a head or another full head to add to the budget? Because it's not in the budget right now, but to add to next year or something else like that, how much headroom do we have?
There's not much headroom. There's not much headroom.
So this is one of those potentially more urgent if push comes to shove as we go through the year.
It is, and this is one where instructional, so DESE lays out the required amount of instructional minutes by English proficiency level. And in transparency, there's not a lot of districts who feel they're constantly in full compliance with that due to staffing levels. I think we're in a pretty good position. But given that we continue to see a rise, particularly a rise in newcomer students, which is the sort of the most intensive support, we don't have a lot of wiggle room without having to add more staff. Where we do have a little bit of wiggle room is our current MLL coordinator is also providing a lot of coaching to our MLL teachers, both MLL teachers and also general ed teachers with MLL students in their classrooms. You have a little bit of flex. The past couple of years, she's been pulled to do more direct instruction. We think it's really important as our staff are sometimes working with MLLs for the first time to be able to have access to someone who can provide this type of coaching and support. And again, she's one person across the entire district. So I share all this to say the margin's pretty thin, and I think this is something we're going to have to continue to revisit every year as we move forward. It also does shift by school is the other piece too, as we have, we're looking right now at our rosters for kids who are graduating Killam and what that will look like next year and what does that mean for splitting staff. So part of that does depend on where students are, but we're in pretty thin margin here.
So I think one of the things I'm thinking about here is we have now with our Special Education Reserve Fund, we have a little bit of buffer in case something goes wrong. That doesn't apply to this, right? I don't, to my knowledge, and Derek, maybe it's something we can follow up on, there is no such reserve fund for multi-language learner, at least on a state level, right? So is that something we would be interested in talking to our legislators about potentially setting up a structure to allow for something like that? I think we're only small in the grand scheme of things versus other districts, but because of that, we're probably most exposed or relatively more exposed than other districts that have a higher population and therefore can juggle a little bit more. So I'm just trying to think of protections for ourselves for the future. That's one thing. The second question was completely different, but when we launched the METCO coordinator, school adjustment counselor roles, we talked about roles and responsibilities and navigating that between Dr. Stice, the principals, Mr. Martin, et cetera. So is there an update you can give to us in regards to how that whole decision tree, RACI matrix of roles and responsibilities is working?
Yeah, great question. So I think if you ask across our schools, sort of how are the METCO SACs working, I think schools will all share that they're working really, really well. If you ask our principals, if you ask our families, if you ask our staff, working really well in the sense of it has increased the access to school counseling on school site for all of our students. And it's also provided a direct liaison for our Boston resident students and our Boston families. I think that's been pretty clear when we talk to our Boston families and our Boston students that this has really been a meaningful role for them. Where I think we have areas to sort of still improve is what you're getting at, is just consistency across the roles, across all of the buildings. So this, you may have remembered last year, like Joseph Longbottom, our doctoral fellow, like his project he had took on was working with Curtis and with our central office team to try to create consistency in practices across our district. One of the things that we've been doing this year to try to do that is we've been having, in addition to our meeting with our coordinators, we have also meetings between coordinators and principals, and then we also do site visits where we go to a site to talk about a particular practice, and then to talk about what that looks like to see it in action in one school, and then talk about what that looks like in other schools. I think those things are leading towards more consistency across the district, but I still think it's a work in progress to sort of have sort of set expectations of what this role should be doing in every building, and then being clear on sort of what are those areas where schools can have a little bit more autonomy. So I think we put that in there, that's sort of still a work in progress, but I do think the intentional meetings between coordinators, the meetings with coordinators and principals, and then the structure of having the site visits. I should add one more too. Curtis this year also has triad meetings every couple of weeks with him, the principal, and also the METCO coordinator, SAC, to talk about practices in that school and to try to, for him, kind of see maybe where there's some spots where we're not in alignment where we need to be. So I think we're further along than last year, but I still think that's an area for us to grow.
May I just add one thing? So there's two groups that are meeting. One is we have a monthly meeting of all of our social emotional support in the district, and then they also have supervision, and we've contracted out with someone from SEAM, Wendy Bowditch, who comes and meets with them so that they're really aligning practices, and each school is working on creating a flow chart for like, this is who you go to if you need this is who you go to if you need that, so that everybody is clear on that. Barrows actually was the leader in developing it and did such a nice job. We wanted to make sure every school had one. And we're continuing the conversations around that. So for example, Dr. Hardy and I sent out an email at the beginning of the week to all the building leaders outlining all of the tasks for social workers, school psychologists, what are the principals doing, asking who does them, to what degree, and then do they need extra training? In our DLT meeting on Tuesday, we're going to look at that at the district level to see what are the pieces that are the same across all the buildings, and as Dr. Milichewski said, where are the non-negotiables, and then where are the building autonomy? So we're continuing to have those very frank discussions rooted in data with our building leaders as well.
Great, thank you both. Okay, go ahead, please jump in. Yeah.
Quick question just on the MLL students. And I know it's, the report says 42 students in October of 2018, 74 in October of 2023. Are there any MLL students coming in at the high school level?
Yes.
There are, so it's not just coming in at elementary school?
So I had the pleasure of attending a recent an MLL celebration of academic progress. Patrice Duggan was launching with all of her level 1 MLLs, and as we were in the room and they were sharing their stories of, a lot of them, of coming to the United States and sort of their family history, what they're excited about, what they're nervous about, there was 2 students who had just arrived within that past week. One student from El Salvador, and then one student from Brazil. So we're seeing students come at all levels. And I also just have so much respect and appreciation for a lot of our high school students who are, navigating especially some of the challenge of walking into a huge high school, and in some cases, not even having experience in a, traditional high school setting, I think is really overwhelming. But the students, I think, have been overall making really good progress, but all levels. We also have students who have had significant interruptions in their education, so they may be sort of at a, at a different age than what you would think traditionally a freshman may come in, and we're figuring out like credits and where they'd be placed. So there is some challenge in that too, of making sure a student's placed appropriately for them.
Okay, great. Any other questions from the committee? Okay, so we will move on. And Dr. Milichewski, you're going to start, or are we going to go right to Dr. Pinto?
Go right to Dr. Pinto.
Yes, good evening. It's my pleasure to present the superintendent's FY25 recommended budget for this evening. So I've shared both the presentation and the budget book with you. I do have an updated presentation, which you're going to see this evening, and then I'll share that with you, and it'll be posted accordingly. I'll move on to the next slide, which has 7 items on the agenda for this evening's budget presentation. So I've included all of the cost centers in your packet and in this presentation, but we're only sharing 2 this evening. We're only speaking about 2, administration and special education. We'll present the remaining 3 next week, and we do have 2 more budget meetings following that. So in the following slides, I'm going to highlight a few key points on each one, and then I'll provide for opportunities for questions along the way. And I'm going to trade off with Dr. Milachevsky, who will pick up a couple of slides as we go along. So here we have the Finance Committee guidelines, and in October of 2023, the Finance Committee voted for FY25 a 4% increase to over the FY24 appropriated budget. So you see that reflected here. Operating funds are $50,125,483. I'm looking at the middle column at the moment. And then special education accommodated costs are listed at $6,035,328. So, and finally, the Town of Reading's community priorities are listed at $150,000. So these represent increases which you'll see in the second to last column, and then the percentages are in the final column. So it is important to note that the town has made an adjustment to the prior year's community priority. It's been incorporated into that budget. That's the reason for the asterisk at the bottom. Okay, we'll move on to budget guidance and investment priorities, and I'm going to turn this over to Dr. Milachevsky.
Really quickly, I think these are the 9 priorities that were surfaced by the school committee at the last meeting. I think the first 4 you'll see, I think, loud and clear in this budget. First one, sustain and meet contractual obligations. As we know, and I think the community knows, we are in negotiations with all 5 of our bargaining units, have completed 3 of the negotiations, sort of 2 that are still outstanding. But that's sort of priority 1, is making sure that we can meet contractual obligations in the budget. 2, maintain ESSER staffing. This is the last sort of year that we have ESSER staffing that we need to figure out a way to fold into the operating budget. I think you'll see that achieved through the proposed FY25 budget. Maintain the path towards universal full-day K. I know we'll be discussing that next week in more detail, but I think there's in the budget book, you'll see that commitment to move that forward. And then for both of the additions, FTE additions in this budget, around a speech language pathologist, 0.6, and also then a 0.5 JE lead teacher, both are in the special education bucket. So you'll see those top 4 already sort of highlighted in the budget. I think the other 5 are things that are sort of still on our radar of us trying to figure out ways to make them happen. May happen later in the year, may happen through different ways, pursuing grant funding, things like that, but definitely those top 4 were things that were priorities for us to make sure that we got in the budget for the FY25.
I'll continue with budget development process and timelines. So just wanted you to know that in the budget development process, we use the tenets that are posted on this slide. We also use the budget guidelines as delivered to us by the Finance Committee and then by School Committee. And then, we incorporated the district's mission, vision, statements on equity, and so on. So the process taken to build the baseline budget involved the following. So we aligned budgets with employment contracts and negotiated bargaining agreements. We calculated costs based on historical spending trends, known service and material rate changes, and anticipated requirements. We evaluated staffing schedules, student groupings, and caseloads based on projected student enrollment, class size, and student needs. We also redeployed existing resources and used grants and the revolving accounts to support changes in baseline operating expenses and then fund our investment priorities. So here's a shot of the budget development process and timeline. And this is a culmination of the process that began in July. So in the red columns, you'll see the months, and the white columns, the activities. So July to October, we worked on things like enrollment projections, forecasting, and budget building. In November, there was a collaboration on budget priorities and requests. December and January timeframe came the publishing of the budget book and these budget meetings. In February, we are scheduled to present to the Finance Committee, and then in April, there'll be a town meeting and a vote on the budget.
So the areas for recommended budget investments for FY25, just 2 quick slides here. First, on the preschool and elementary level, the first is an increase in 0.6 FTE for a speech and language pathologist. This is to, I think, to respond to what is a growing need in terms of speech language IEP-related need on student IEPs. Also, I'd also like to share, this comes out of our work with our special education workload committee with our union. This seemed to be the largest push and the largest ask from the union, was making sure that we were responsive to growing caseloads of our staff. So I think that certainly achieves this both from a staff and a student perspective. The second add in FTE is adding a 0.5 special education teacher for the lead program at JE. This position is currently in place at JE on a one-year position. It's currently a 0.5 at JE and also a 0.5 at Killam for specialized reading. We think in this budget, maintaining the 0.5 for special education in the lead program is really important for us to continue to invest in our lead program and ensure we're effectively supporting our students with language-based learning disabilities. I'd also note too that this also will see, this is a something that could continue to come up over the next couple of years. As we know, we're going through the program review right now for LEAD. We'll see sort of what the recommendations are from the program review as well. But for now, we think that this is an important investment to continue to build out our program. And also, I'd share something that we've seen this year, that having that 0.5 in place, we think, has provided a better program and better services for our students. As I share quickly, full-day kindergarten, we'll talk more about next week, but also a continued path towards universal free kindergarten for all students in the district. I think we're hopefully 1 year away, so we're chipping away, getting close. And then on the next slide, you'll see the other investment focus areas are 3 positions that are just moving over from ESSER. Those are the 1.0 special education teacher at Coolidge, and then the 2 guidance counselor positions at the high school. We feel that all of those roles, again, we've seen them have a significant impact and a positive impact in our school communities. We thought it was important to make sure that we can sustain those moving forward. As you'll see in the next slide, there's also a lot of other priorities that surfaced during the budget process. Again, we know that our priority this year was meeting contractual obligations. These are things, in addition to many others, that are on our radar for the years to come, but just wanted to elevate some of these that we knew were kind of out there for our staff and for our community. For example, like one of these, the additional METCO coordinator. We know that we have a METCO coordinator SAC at all of our buildings right now, except for at the middle school. We are sharing a SAC. So I think what we've also applied to a couple of grants recently that we're hopeful that we can get some funding to maybe support in that area. We feel there's an area that there is some grant funding out there right now. So even if we are not able to fund some of these in this budget cycle, we're still trying to figure out ways that we can get closer to supporting some of the needs that are reflected in these asks. All right. So on that, I think Dr. Pinto is going to kind of move us to the final phases by breaking this down by 2 of the cost centers for tonight.
That's correct. So I'm going to start with the recommended budget by cost center. So this slide actually is, the purpose of the slide is really to give you a little bit of historical context where expenditures are increasing and by what amount. So they're separated by cost center, and you'll see the cost centers are listed in the left column. There are 5. And then the dollar amounts that have been spent in prior years and the percentage change year over year. So some cost centers are a little smaller than others, so the dollar change represents a larger percentage, i.e. regular day expenditures have increased by 3.51%, which represents 1.12 million, while facilities increased 6.14%, or $146,000. So that shows you from 21 to 24, and then recommended for 25, and the difference between 24 and 25. The next slide shows this, there's a visual representation, a pie chart on the left, and that's a visual representation of expenditures attributed to each cost center in the superintendent's FY25 recommended budget. So for example, 58.74% of the FY25 recommended budget is allocated to regular day expenditures. The table to the right notes the year-over-year changes. So we can see from 24 to 25, the percentage difference in spending is all under 1%. So we're, kind of maintaining the proportions. And in the sections that follow, the district's finances will be summarized by cost center, so I'm going to share those 2 cost centers with you now. So the first one is administration. And so you'll see in the top left, there's the FY24 appropriated budget, the FY25 superintendent's recommended budget, a dollar change and percentage change over FY24, and then the primary budget driver. So I felt that these were the elements that you'd be most interested in, our community would be most interested in knowing. The primary function of this cost center includes salaries and expenses for central office and administrative assistants, along with district-wide data and information management. This accounts for 2.44% of our overall budget, so it's a very small slice. The significant driver is salary, right? So you'll find that when we're looking at salaries, we look at staffing exchange, so that's outgoing staff salaries, which are higher than ones coming in. We look at step increases, which is the ascension of staff members down in their respective column of the salary matrix. We look at degree changes, so with education attainment or degree attainment, they move across columns. And then we're also trying to account for cost of living agreements or cost of living increases. And so in some instances, we've had to make some assumptions about what those cost of living increases would be, as not all our negotiations are settled. So in this case, the professional salaries line is anticipated to increase by 4.47%, or $31,000, and the clerical salaries line is expected to increase by 8.21%, or $29,000. So you'll find that detail in the appendices that are at the back of the budget book. Aside from that, the other significant item in this cost center is a reallocation of the offset for school choice funding, which has been moved from the administration cost center to the regular day cost center. That's to support what's happening there. And that was an amount of $19,000, $19,000. So that's the administration cost center. Do you know what, I should pause there for questions?
I'll start. Shouldn't we expect more for, you just said it, Derek, school choice next year as a result of how many kids we have now than the 44,000 that's currently there?
So yes, we should. I believe, so I don't want to anchor on a number right now. I'll have to get back to you on the number, but the number has increased year over year. I think we had 7 in our initial year, and it's come up to 17 in the second year. After saying don't anchor around
I think it's more than
numbers.
that, right? So
I feel like we're over 25 students in that area. I believe one at roughly $5,000 a student is what I recall.
okay.
So I'm anticipating, yes, that to be larger.
So have we budgeted for the full amount, or are we only budgeting for a portion still?
So we are anticipating the full amount of 125. So that's the other offset. There's another. So the offset has been placed there, and then there's offset for extended day, which has also been retained, I think, in this cost center.
So there's an offset summary on page 49, and we go from 45 to 125 year over year. It's just where it's allocated.
It's just, okay, so the 19 or whatever was part of administration, there's still 25,000 in administration, the rest of it's now in regular day. Trying to get to the right page on the budget book.
49. I see, okay.
Yep. So school choice, you'll see in the recommended offset by cost center on page 49
Yep.
in the last line.
Yep.
25 is accounted for there.
Thanks, Sean.
So, all right, okay, then, I guess maybe I'm misunderstanding something, I just want to, and maybe we can take it offline at a later point, I think, but we still have 25,000 offset in administration, right? It went from 44 to 25,000.
Yes.
That's the extended day that's coming in, okay, that's what that is, that's not,
That's
so
the
that's only
extended day. That's
extended day
correct.
because of the presumably, administrative assistant overhead that goes with extended day.
Correct.
Okay, got it. And now all of the school choice is in regular ed?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. The next cost center is special education. So again, the same, similar graphic with the information at the top. The primary function of Special Education Cost Center encompasses all personnel and non-personnel expenses necessary to deliver special education and related services to students in our school community. It's mandated by the Individual with Disabilities Education Act, IDEA, and Section 504 of the Americans with Disability Act. And so we're really striving to provide programs and services that allow our students with disabilities to be educated in the least restrictive environment, which enables them to make effective progress. In this case, the Special Education Cost Center makes up 31.32% of the recommended budget. And a couple of significant items here is that the professional salaries line has been budgeted for an increase of 6.14%, and the clerical salaries line anticipated by 10.30%. And these are both the result of negotiations and anticipated salary increases. The other non-personnel items that we're expecting to increase are the out-of-district transportation costs. We had to put a placeholder in there because we're not sure yet where that's going to land. And then funds are also earmarked for students who are being considered or who may need an out-of-district placement. So it's important to know that the budget for tuition placements is really dependent on the IEP team decisions, and therefore it's variable. Okay, so that is represents the conclusion of the two cost centers that I was going to share with you this evening. Next week we'll cover the remaining three, so regular day, district-wide, and facilities.
Any questions?
One question, it's probably more for Dr. Stice or Dr. Milichewski, because it's a historical question. I don't remember the discussion last year about that lead half FTE being a one-year position. Do you recall what the rationale for us establishing that as a temporary position was at the time?
It wasn't established last year, it was this year.
Yeah, this what, you can go first if you want.
We did during the year.
Oh, yeah, so it was an ad, that
As a result of the program review.
Not even a result of the program, we thought that this year, in conversations with program staff, with JE, we felt like we had some wiggle room in the budget where we could have an ad. And I think that they had said if we were able to add additional, staffing at this point, we think that would have a, positive impact. But it was not forecasted during the last budget.
Right, okay, so we added it from available funds for the year, anticipating
Correct.
we'd have to either determine whether it was necessary, appropriate, or find a way for it in the budget. Got it, okay.
Correct. It
Thank
gave
you.
us
I
a
remember-
pilot that we
yeah.
didn't expect to have, but
I
Dr.
remember
Stice,
that
you
now,
want?
thank you.
Yeah, it was really focused on, we hired someone who is Wilson certified
Yeah.
and able to provide that additional level of reading training so that the group size is smaller, either individual or very small for the students in the LEAD program. And we want to be able to continue that, which is why we're asking to add it into the budget.
Yep, makes sense. That would explain why I don't remember it from last year's budget discussions,
Yes.
so, yep.
It's tied to- We had a couple of additional placements late last year,
We did
right?
too.
So,
Yeah.
post-budget, we had a couple additional placements. So I guess I'm going to add on to that question here. I think we should explicitly state that some of the increase in the special education budget comes from those two additions that you put out there, right? So it's not just the salaries negotiated, it's the RISE, although that might be funded by the RISE revolving account, and the lead teacher that are there. So when we put this out as our final and whatnot, it's not just salaries from the existing staff, it's also the new lead teacher that's going in.
Great point.
And potentially the speech language pathologist, if that's not funded by the revolving account.
Yep, good point.
And if that is funded by the revolving account, we should be clear about that too.
Yep.
I'm guessing it's not, since
That
you're
was
saying it's an ad.
Yeah, operating
right?
budget, yep.
Okay. Anything else that anybody has? Sarah, anything from you?
No, nothing for me, thanks.
Okay. I guess my question is, we have this lead teacher, you know where I'm going with this. We have this lead teacher as one this year, or half lead and half Killam, right? Is it fair to say that we need to find $43,786 to make this a full position? And is there any other source of money we think we can look at for that additional?
Yeah. I think that's probably our top priority. If there were to be funding of it, if we were able to find funding somehow, we think that would be the first spot that we would want to add. We felt at this phase of the budget process, we just didn't know where we would pull from. But as we evaluate, certainly we think we have a better chance of retaining and/or recruiting a candidate in there if we are offered a full-time sort of role. So that's on our radar. We just didn't see a clear path yet in operating funds to be able to do that.
Okay.
But it's on our radar.
Is there, maybe this is too detailed of a question, is there enough buffer built into the OOD transportation and placement that we think we can squeeze 43,000 out of that?
At this point in the budget process, I don't think I'd be comfortable doing that. I think I think we squeezed sort of as much as we could at this point, but we're going to be closely monitoring over the next couple of months to see if we have any more wiggle room there. 'Cause I would also share the educator in that role without knowing sort of their future plans. I know has done a really good job in the role and has also made us really positive impact at Killam through specialized reading too. So
I've heard the same, which is why I'm asking. So, okay, good. Anything else from anybody else? John?
Just one more, and maybe this is explained by being offset somewhere else, but given the vote that we just took, should we expect an increase in total RISE tuition revenue next year?
yes, we had that number too. It was around 10. It was around 10,000. If I'm not mistaken.
Okay, so it's-
I think as the numbers. I don't know if someone has it in front of them. It was about the potential is there's a potential of about $10,000 of additional revenue from this new funding mechanism or structure. It went from like 422 to 430 something thousand dollars in tuition possibility. I
Okay.
think I sent that to the committee. I'll look to get that exact number.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like we're holding the offset flat.
Yeah,
So that could be an opportunity.
it could be, right. Yeah, it was for, last year we could collect $422,000. This year we could collect $437,000 and $437,000.
Okay.
Is that based on the schedule and how many spaces are available?
If we were to fully-
And assuming we fill
Assuming
it?
we
Okay,
fill
I was
out-
like, how do you know that if people haven't registered?
With the same placeholder, the same assumptions around financial, sort of a financial assistance of what we had historically.
Gotcha, that makes sense.
Okay.
If we had demand greater, would we have space classroom-wise to add a classroom for RISE these days? Or are we capped?
So I think we can, I think there's a huge wait list right now, and I think we just don't have any classroom space at this point. I don't know what other programming we could offer that, at this point, do you, top of your head?
No, it really is a space issue.
It's a good
Which
plug
we
for the
might solve.
community discussion on the Killam building. Yeah.
I'm on it.
Just going back to the other budget drivers thing here, we should also list the ESSER position at Coolidge under the budget drivers for the
Yes.
special education list as well. Go ahead.
On your waiting list, how many additional classrooms could you use right now?
I don't know, but I will ask Kerry and let you know. We are very excited to think about it being all in one location. That would make a very big difference in our ability to provide services consistently.
We can get that wait list number
Yeah,
for
we
you.
could get the wait list number.
And then we can get a school psychologist in RISE too?
That is also an ask, we know that,
Yeah.
yep.
Okay.
So, yep, social worker especially.
Okay. Looking around, any other questions? Any questions from the audience while you're here? Seeing none? Sarah, last chance?
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
Dr. Pinto, thank you. Dr. Milczewski and Dr. Stice, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So we will now move on. Leaving public session, going to executive session, not to return, and do we have a motion?
Motion to adjourn to executive session and not return to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the public body. Reading Para Educators Association as an open meeting, or as the chair deems an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the Reading School Committee.
And I so deem, yes.
Second.
Seconded by Sean, just barely under the wire. All right, roll call. Sean?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Carla?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Tom? Yes, and we are adjourned, 8:11.
Let us go.